Ladies and gentlemen of the press, fellow Liberians, we appreciate your presence here today as we break our month-long silence to address the concerns, misconceptions, and malicious rumors that have circulated unabated on the subject of how I came into the running mate conversation. On Friday, January 13, 2023, I had a very important meeting in Liberia at Royal Hotel in room 309 with representatives of some very serious and powerful people. They offered me millions of dollars to run for the presidency of Liberia in this year's general and presidential elections. Their proposition, though massive, was not a shocker to me as a powerful man of God that I trust had earlier prophesied to me 3 years ago in 2020. They told me that they had conducted a nationwide survey on me that indicated that I had a strong favorability across the country. They promised to deploy the required expertise on top of the millions of dollars they were offering to ensure success. I must admit, I was overwhelmed in no small measure, not just by the sheer enormity of the proposition or offer, but also that it was particularly happening to me, Henry Costa, instead of one of the many already declared presidential candidates out there. Why me, I ask myself quietly. When it was my turn to speak after the gentleman had made the proposition to me, I nervously thanked them for their most generous offer, but firmly and respectfully declined their offer. I told them that I could not accept their money to run against Ambassador Joseph Boakai, for I was fully committed to his candidacy, and I believed it would deeply devastate a man that I had come to love, admire, and enthusiastically support. It would be a most painful act of betrayal, I believed at the time. The gentlemen were deeply disappointed by my answer, but ironically, they were blown away and impressed by my sheer loyalty to a man who was not even a remote blood relative of mine. Considering the serious money problems that Uncle Joe, as I call him, was facing, which I am very well familiar with, I then passionately pleaded with the gentlemen to convey my humble and fervent request to their superiors that I wanted them to kindly divert and give the $30 million package that they had offered me to Ambassador Joseph Yuma Boakai for his presidential campaign, while I would then focus on my already declared bid for the Senate seat of Montserrat County. After much hesitation, they reluctantly agreed to pass on my request to their superiors. I left that meeting feeling assured that I had done a most honorable and good thing. He was so happy and thanked me profusely for what he believed was a great uncommon sacrifice that I had made to turn down $30 million to run for president out of deep loyalty to him. I was so very happy to see my beloved Uncle Joe so very happy. For several weeks, while we waited to hear good news from the financial backers, Uncle Joe put me under serious pressure and stress for updates, which sometimes I didn't have to give him. Then he departed the United States on February 10th to return to Liberia. And on the very next day, Saturday, February 11th, I received the long-awaited answer from the financial backers. They first expressed their disappointment in me for not accepting their offer to run for president. But thankfully, they have considered and accepted my request to support Ambassador Boakai instead. But it came with one condition. They requested that in exchange for their $30 million, Ambassador Boakai must pick me, Henry Costa, as his running mate. When I delivered their terms or requests to Ambassador Boakai, at the time he was already in Liberia, he readily and happily accepted and agreed. I was stunned. He went on to tell me how brilliant, loyal, patriotic I am, and what a godsend I have been to him over these past years, and much more. That was the first time I had heard such flattering words from Uncle Joe. Now permit me to backtrack a little. A few weeks earlier, Ambassador Walker had told me during a 1-hour phone call that he was not going with Senator Yomdi Kanga Lawrence as his running mate because of a weakened position due to the internal crisis in her party and because of the way she had treated Charles Bromstein's party and people by mortgaging it to the likes of Musa Belete, according to him. He also decisively dismissed the idea of picking Jeremiah Kun, whom he said was very corrupt and a puppet of the notorious warlord Prince Johnson. He further told me that the Americans in particular would be very unhappy and offended if he picked Jeremiah Kun as his running mate. I used the opportunity of the call to tell Ambassador Bwaka very firmly that I, Henry Pedro Costa, would not continue to support him if he picked Jeremiah Kun as his running mate. Because I believe Jeremiah Kun stands for nothing and has spent all his years in the House and in the Liberian Senate busy enriching himself, voting for every bad deal that came before him, and never once stood up for the Liberian people's interests. I also told Ambassador Bwaka that picking Jeremiah Kun, who is a political puppet of Prince Johnson's, a very dangerous warlord who is under U.S. sanctions, would be deemed as a slap in the face to the United States, our oldest and most important partner. I went further to tell Uncle Joe that having a troubled man like Prince Johnson close to the presidency would be a grave threat to our national security and our fledgling democracy. My fellow Liberians, Ambassador Bwaka agreed with me on all these counts and proceeded to promise me, Henry Pedro Costa, that he would never make the mistake of selecting Jeremiah Kun as his running mate. In the meeting which took place at the Marriott Hotel near Kotoka International Airport, a meeting requested by Ambassador Bwaka, he did something that would dramatically change the way I see him forever and ever. When he got into the meeting with the potential financiers, Ambassador Joseph Bwaka used the opportunity to badmouth me to these financiers, saying some of the most negative things about my character to them. After telling me that he would commit to them, that he would make me his running mate, he broke his promise and went on a rampage of trying to damage my reputation to these people who I had brought to support him. He even went as far as blasting them for offering me such a deal rather than offering it to him. He told them to dump me and gave him the $30 million so that he could pick whoever he wanted for his running mate. In exchange, he promised to give them anything they wanted in Liberia if he won the election. In specificity, he promised he would give them the Ogisi Mountain in Lofa County. Moreover, he told them that he could never select Yombli as his running mate, neither Jeremiah Kun as his running mate. As you may expect, the people were very shocked by Ambassador Bwaka's behavior. And when they asked him about his promise to name me as his running mate, Ambassador Bwaka vehemently denied ever promising to make me his running mate. My fellow Liberians, the press, let me tell you all the truth, yeah? We did not abandon Ambassador Joseph Bwaka, as they will have you believe. Rather, it was Ambassador Bwaka who abandoned us in the ALP. It was Ambassador Bwaka who stopped talking to us since the second week in April. Even worse, he has also abandoned his own vision for the Liberian people. Fellow Liberians, in closing, I have been designated by my party, the All Liberian Party, to inform and announce in no uncertain, categorical, and unambiguous terms that our party, the All Liberian Party, is no longer political allies or partners with Ambassador Joseph Bwaka and his Unity Party.